For decades, Ashida Kim convinced thousands of people that he was one of the most dangerous ninjas on the planet. He claimed to have mastered techniques capable of killing with a single move, disappearing into the darkness, and defeating any opponent using ancient secrets of ninjutsu. But for many legitimate martial arts practitioners, Ashida Kim eventually became the ultimate symbol of the modern fake ninja. But how bad was Ashida Kim actually? Before judging him, you have to understand the magnitude of what Ashida Kim claimed. He did not simply claim to be a good martial artist. He presented himself as an authentic ninja master. During the 80s, he published dozens of books in which he claimed to reveal ancient secrets of ninjutsu. In them, he described techniques supposedly used by feudal Japanese ninjas, methods of infiltration, combat, espionage, pressure points, incapacitating attacks, and even techniques known as the death touch. He also claimed to belong to the Black Dragon Fighting Society, an organization that, according to him, descended from a tradition thousands of years old. His books were enormously successful. For thousands of American readers, Ashida Kim became the image of the modern ninja. Many came to believe they were learning authentic ninjutsu simply by following his manuals. The problem appeared when other practitioners began asking one very simple question: who had actually trained Ashida Kim? Unlike recognized masters of modern ninjutsu, such as Masaaki Hatsumi or Stephen K., Ashida Kim never presented a verifiable lineage, nor was he able to point to a master recognized by the major ninjutsu organizations who could validate his training. Over the years, that lack of credentials began raising serious doubts among practitioners and experts, to the point that many eventually questioned not only his story, but the authenticity of practically everything he taught. And that was only the beginning of the doubts, because Ashida Kim did not have just one problem with his story, he had several. In traditional martial arts, there is something known as a lineage. It is the chain of masters that shows who you learned from, who awarded your ranks, and how that knowledge was passed down to you. It does not guarantee that someone is a great fighter, but it does make it possible to verify that they actually received the training they claim to have. And this is where the problems began for Ashida Kim. For years, he claimed to be a master of ninjutsu, and even claimed to belong to the Black Dragon Fighting Society. However, when practitioners and researchers tried to verify his training, no documents, certificates, or recognized masters ever appeared to confirm those claims. The major ninjutsu organizations, including those connected to the lineage of Masaaki Hatsumi, considered the leading representative of modern ninjutsu, never recognized him as one of their instructors or as someone who had received official training. This led many practitioners to question something fundamental. If he really was one of the great masters of ninjutsu, why could no one within the ninjutsu world itself confirm where he had learned it? And while that question remained unanswered, doubts about everything else continued to grow. The lack of a verifiable lineage was already a problem. But what ultimately convinced many experts that something did not add up was the way Ashida Kim taught. His books featured supposedly ancient techniques alongside extraordinary claims. Methods for incapacitating an opponent with a single move, secrets passed down for centuries, and even abilities that, according to him, made a ninja practically unstoppable. The problem was that many recognized ninjutsu practitioners began pointing out that much of this material did not match what was taught in traditional schools. Some of the movements seemed more like a mixture of karate, kung fu, self-defense, and ideas taken from ninja movies than from a documented martial tradition. Over the years, his name began appearing frequently in specialized magazines, forums, and martial arts communities, but not as a respected authority on ninjutsu. He appeared as one of the most frequently cited examples of how marketing could sell an image far greater than the actual credentials behind it. And yet, thousands of people continued buying his books, convinced that they were learning the authentic secrets of the ninja. If someone claims to have mastered the most ancient secrets of ninjutsu, it is natural to expect some kind of demonstration. Not necessarily a tournament, but at least some objective proof of the abilities they claim to possess. And that was another one of Ashida Kim's biggest problems. For decades, He spoke about extremely dangerous techniques, secret combat methods, and knowledge that, according to him, had survived for centuries. However, none of those claims were backed up by verifiable demonstrations in front of independent experts or competitions where they could be objectively evaluated. Instead, most of his reputation was built through books, photographs, promotional videos, and personal accounts. That led many martial artists to distinguish between two very different things: being a successful author and being a master whose extraordinary abilities can actually be demonstrated. Because writing about ninjas can make you a very famous author, but that alone does not prove that you possess the abilities you describe. And that difference was precisely what ended up fueling the controversy that still surrounds Ashida Kim's name today. But even that wasn't the worst part. Because when critics began questioning his actual abilities, Kim decided to respond in a way that seemed definitive by issuing a $10,000 challenge. On paper, it sounded intimidating. In practice, the challenge ended up being far more embarrassing than it seemed. If Ashida Kim really mastered the deadliest techniques of ninjutsu, there was a very simple way to prove it: by fighting. And in fact, for years he claimed he was willing to do exactly that. On his website, he posted a famous $10,000 challenge to anyone who wanted to fight him. At first glance, it seemed like the perfect opportunity to prove his abilities. But when people started reading the conditions, the story changed completely. The challenger had to put up a $25,000 bond, cover all of Ashida Kim's travel and accommodation expenses, as well as those of several people accompanying him, and also sign a document releasing him from any liability in the event of death, mutilation, or serious injury. To many martial artists, it did not look like a serious challenge. It looked like a way to make sure no one would ever accept it. And that was precisely one of the most repeated criticisms for years. Because a champion who trusts his abilities needs an opponent. A challenge with almost impossible obstacles needs exactly the opposite, for no one to show up. That difference led many people to view Ashida Kim's famous challenge more as a marketing strategy than as a genuine invitation to prove his abilities. It would be unfair to say that Ashida Kim knew absolutely nothing about martial arts. Over the years, he demonstrated knowledge of basic combat concepts, wrote numerous books on self-defense, and managed to spark thousands of people's interest in Japanese martial arts. In fact, many readers began training because of his publications. His real talent seemed to lie somewhere else. He knew how to tell stories, build a mysterious image, and present the world of ninjas in a way that fascinated Western audiences. The problem was never that he wrote books about ninjas. The problem was presenting many of his claims as authentic knowledge passed down through an ancient martial tradition when he was never able to provide verifiable evidence of that supposed lineage. Over time, that lack of evidence led much of the ninjutsu community to stop viewing him as a legitimate master and instead begin seeing him primarily as an extraordinary salesman of a fantasy. In other words, Ashida Kim was far more successful as an author and a character than as a recognized martial artist. And that difference explains why, decades later, his name still comes up whenever people discuss some of the biggest frauds and controversies in martial arts history. The big question is not why so many martial artists distrusted Ashida Kim. The real question is far more interesting. How did he manage to convince thousands of people that he was an authentic ninja master? The answer has much less to do with martial arts and much more to do with the perfect moment in which he appeared. In the early 80s, the United States was experiencing a genuine ninja craze. Movies, television shows, comic books, and video games had turned these Japanese warriors into one of the biggest phenomena in pop culture. Millions of people were fascinated by ninjutsu, but very few had access to Japanese masters or knew what that martial tradition was really like. Ashida Kim knew how to take advantage of that gap better than almost anyone. While most instructors taught only inside their dojos, he began publishing a huge number of books aimed at the general public. In them, he promised to reveal ancient secrets of ninjutsu, combat techniques, survival methods, espionage strategies, and knowledge that, according to him, had remained hidden for centuries. His books reached stores across the United States and turned him into one of the best-known martial arts authors of the decade, long before the internet made it easy to verify any instructor's credentials. And that was where his real talent lay. His books did not feel like simple self-defense manuals. They were written to make readers feel as if they were discovering knowledge reserved for a chosen few. Photographs, stories about ancient ninjas, and language filled with mystery helped build an extremely convincing image. For most of his readers, who had never trained in ninjutsu under a recognized master, there was no easy way to determine whether any of it was authentic. If it sounded believable and the author spoke with confidence, it was easy to assume he was telling the truth. For years, that strategy worked. While numerous ninjutsu practitioners publicly questioned his credentials and the authenticity of his teachings, Ashida Kim continued selling books and building an image that increasingly seemed larger than reality. And that is probably the greatest lesson of this entire story. Ashida Kim did not become famous because he proved he was the greatest ninja in the world. He became famous because he knew how to sell that idea better than almost anyone. What makes Ashida Kim's case so interesting is that it demonstrates the enormous difference between building a reputation and earning one within the martial arts world. While he claimed to have mastered ancient secrets of ninjutsu, masters like Masaaki Hatsumi spent decades preserving traditional schools with documented lineages and thousands of students around the world. Likewise, instructors such as Stephen K. Hayes traveled to Japan to train directly under Hatsumi and earned ranks recognized by established organizations. The difference was not only in their technical level, it was in the evidence. Their teachers were known, their students could verify them, their ranks had a clear origin, their careers could be traced step by step. In contrast, much of Ashida Kim's story depended entirely on his own claims. There were no documents confirming the lineage he described, nor were there any major ninjutsu organizations publicly supporting his credentials. And in martial arts, that difference changes everything. Because anyone can claim to have inherited the secrets of an ancient tradition. The truly difficult part is proving it. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, we have another one waiting for you right here. And don't forget to share and leave me your valuable like.